Now I don't know if we'll be able to find any worms because they kind of stay hunkered down towards the bottom, it seems, but at least I can show you what we got in here. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope everybody out there is having a spectacular day. I know you folks over in Texas don't want to hear this, but it feels really, really nice out here today. I think the high is 82 or 83. It's almost chilly for South Georgia. It's just crazy to be this mild in August, but it is what it is and we'll take it. So today on the homestead, we need to do a little work in the greenhouse, need to do a little bit of stepping up, need to get some stuff planted to kind of stick with our fall planting schedule we talked about a few weeks ago. And then I want to show you my new worm farm that I made this past weekend. Really proud of it. I want to show you what we got. Alright, so the first thing we need to do in the greenhouse before we plant anything is step up some of these small fig trees that my buddy Matthew up in Athens sent us. So we've got several different varieties here. The two that I don't have would be the Italian Everbearing and then one called Peter's Honey. Now these are in those little sun pack pots that we really like, but the root ball's getting too big. These trees are getting too big for those little pots, so we need to step them up into a bigger pot. I don't have anything to step these chocolate habanero peppers up into, but I need to step these up. They're just not growing, and I think it has to do with the medium right here. I don't know what this is. Someone gave me these plants that are already kind of germinating. It's not Pro Mix because it doesn't have that much perlite in it. It's got a little bit, but I think the soil there is just kind of soggy. I think I need to try to step these up into some Pro Mix and maybe they'll rebound a little bit, but don't have anything to put those in quite yet. We do have something we can put these fig trees in though. So we're going to step those fig trees up to these bigger pots right here, and this is what we use when we ship our fig trees. So get some Pro Mix in here. Probably go ahead and fill them all the way up, because when we water them a little bit, they're going to sink down a little bit, and then we can put that entire plug in there. Alright, so we got some soil in our pots here. Now we just need to wet that down a little bit. Get my water turned on. So now we've got that Pro Mix wet there, we can go ahead and step these puppies up. Now these have tags already on them. This one actually says Mystery. I guess this was a variety he didn't know what it was. You can see that root ball there. It's pretty well developed and it's been kind of hard to keep it moist. So putting it in some more soil, a larger container, is going to allow us to take care of it a little better. So I'm just going to kind of make a little room, stick it down in there, hold this tag up, add some more Pro Mix here, and that should be pretty good. Alright, so we got all 5 of those figs stepped up into those taller pots, and we gave them a good little shot of water with some of that good juice right there. Now for these fig trees that we just stepped up, we probably won't actually plant those until next year, so spring of 2023. And so we've been getting a decent amount of comments lately, folks asking, well, why don't you have fig trees available right now? Why do you only have them in the late winter months or in this early spring? Why aren't you taking cuttings right now and propagating more trees as opposed to waiting when the leaves fall off? So you don't always have to wait until all the leaves fall off to take cuttings and propagate more trees. You can take cuttings right now if you'd like. Let's take a look at this Mary Lane seedless tree right here, for example. So you can see that new green growth right there. We could take that and cut that, put that in a pot, and it would probably form roots, and we could propagate that and make a whole new tree with it. But let me tell you why I don't actually do a whole lot of that. So for me here in South Georgia, the best time for me to put fig trees in the ground, and the best time for most people to put fig trees in the ground, is going to be in the early spring. When the risk of frost has passed, get that tree in the ground as early as you can while the weather's still somewhat cool. That way you can water it, you can really take care of it, you can get a good root system established before it gets too hot outside and that plant may start experiencing a little stress. So if I were to take some green cuttings right now, I'd put them in the greenhouse, you know, try to get them rooted, but they'd end up being in the greenhouse all throughout the winter and wouldn't get planted until next spring. The dormant cuttings we take, once all the leaves fall off in November, would also be in the greenhouse throughout the winter and get planted next spring. So even if we take cuttings now, they're still not going to get planted anytime sooner than those dormant cuttings that we're going to wait and take when the leaves come off. The plants may be a hair bit bigger, but probably not by much. So we're better off just waiting until the leaves fall off, then taking cuttings and propagating those in the greenhouse and planting them in the spring. Now Cajun B over in Louisiana, he does it a little bit differently. Now keep in mind he's further south of us, so he doesn't get as cold as we get here, although we don't get that cold. So he plants his new trees in October as opposed to doing like I do and waiting in the spring. Now since it doesn't get as cold down there, those trees will grow some through the winter months. Down here we get just enough of a few cold snaps where those trees are not going to really do anything in the winter down here. So that's the difference between, you know, my climate and Cajun B's climate. We're going to wait until the spring, but he says he has good luck planting them in October. And one more thing, if you're taking a lot of green cuttings, you're kind of just picking and choosing here and there, taking a few here, taking a few there, not really getting them all at one time. Whereas if we wait until all the leaves fall off and take all our cuttings when the tree is dormant, we can kind of do just a mass cutting, get all the cuttings we're going to get off that particular tree, and then get them started in the greenhouse. It's just a little more efficient doing them that way. So not going to take any cuttings until these lose their leaves. Right now we're just going to enjoy these delicious figs. Okay, now back inside the greenhouse, we need to get some seeds started today. Got some celery here and a bunch of herbs that we're going to get started. Some of these herbs are really cold tolerant. Some of them are not so cold tolerant. So some of these will be just kind of grown until we get our first frost. Some of the others should grow throughout the winter for us. So let's start off talking about the celery. So we grew celery successfully for the first time last year. We started in the greenhouse sometime in late summer, early fall. It took forever for the transplants to get, you know, big enough to put in the ground. And I think we ended up putting them in the ground December, maybe even early January. But, you know, come spring, what was it, early spring, maybe mid-spring, we ended up harvesting it, and it was really, really tasty. So, you know, I was pleased with the results, although obviously our timing was way off. Now, on a celery seed packet, it's going to say, you know, 90 to 100 days to harvest. But that's from transplanting, I can tell you. We had a commenter on one of the recent videos say he calls celery, or considers celery, a 180-day vegetable. So 90 days in the greenhouse to get a viable transplant, and then 90 days in the ground. And from what I experienced last year, that seems about right. Now the good thing about celery seeds is celery seeds are dirt cheap. This packet right here I got from Urban Farmer last year, 500 seeds in it for $2, and I've looked around at other sites. Anywhere you go, celery seeds are really, really cheap, especially the raw seed like this. So this is a variety we grew last year called Utah Tall. Utah Tall, sounds the same in my southern accent. Utah Tall celery. So we're going to grow this one again. Now I've got another variety on the way from High Mowing Seeds. Hasn't come in, should be here in the next few days, called Tango celery, I believe. And those seeds are actually pelleted. So these raw celery seeds are really, really tiny, almost impossible to singulate. So you just, you know, get a few per cell and then thin them out later. The Tango seeds are pelleted, which means they should be easier to singulate in the cells. I wanted to just give the pelleted seeds a try, and they weren't much more expensive than the raw seeds. So we're going to compare the Tango variety to the Utah Tall variety. And so we'll get these started today, and then we'll get those Tango seeds started whenever they come in the next few days. So we're going to get that celery going today, and then two of the cold hardy herbs we're going to be planting would be dill and then parsley. Now we usually grow dill, seems like every spring and every fall, but I haven't ever grown a whole lot of parsley. I don't really know why I like it, and from what I understand is it's really, really cold hardy. I think down to 10 degrees or something like that. So it should grow throughout the entire winter down here, no issues at all. Dill, I think it can be killed somewhere around 20 to 25 degrees. Don't quote me on that. So not quite as cold hardy as the parsley, but still, you know, cold hardy enough for down here. We rarely get, you know, in the low 20s. And then we're going to be planting a few more herbs that won't be able to take the frost unless we cover them with some agribon or something like that, which we may end up doing. So we're going to do a redo on our basil hedgerow. The one we grew in the spring, we started the transplants in here, put them out in the in-ground garden. Our basil hedgerow did pretty good until we started getting a lot of rain. It started looking kind of pitiable, so we ditched it. So we're going to start all over with that, have a nice little crop of basil during the fall months, and then going to do some cilantro as well. Now, cilantro is kind of tough down here because our cilantro window isn't that wide. I tried this variety last year called slow bolt cilantro, and there really ain't nothing slow bolt about it. It bolts just the same as any other cilantro variety does when it gets hot down here. I wasn't super impressed with the slow bolt variety, but it's just about like any other cilantro variety in my opinion. And I've got seeds, so that's what we're going to plant. So cilantro to me is kind of like English peas. They like moderate weather. They don't like it too hot. They'll go to seed and bolt. Obviously, they don't like it freezing. Freezing temps will burn back the cilantro some or kill it if it's cold enough. We don't always get a lot of those moderate temps down here. Sometimes we have a fall, sometimes we don't have a fall. I have seen years where I've had a fall crop of cilantro planted, and then, you know, a week or two in December, it strike off 80, 85 degrees, you know, out of nowhere, and then cilantro start bolting. Other years, you know, I've had it die because it got too cold too fast when we really didn't have a fall and jumped straight from summer to cold weather. So cilantro's a little tough down here. I really like cilantro though, so it's always worth a shot. And we'll plant some and we'll enjoy it while we have it, but we understand that, you know, some rogue weather can always just zap it. So I've got 3 big prop tech trays here, and when I'm doing multiple trays like we're going to be doing today, I like to kind of just line them up along my bench here, and it makes it easier to kind of spread out the pro mix and get all the cells full as opposed to just doing one tray at a time. Probably going to take several little buckets of this, so we'll get a bunch dumped on here and then we'll spread it out. Alright, now that we got our trays filled with pro mix, we're going to suck these puppies down. We'll make some dibbles, get our seeds planted, cover them with perlite. Let's do it.
Take me back to the jungle. Take me back to the jungle. Alright. We got it all planted. Got it watered in good. I thought I was going to need 3 trays. It turns out I just needed 2 trays. We got 1 tray with nothing but basil, and then everything else in that second tray. Not a big deal that I already filled up this tray, because we got a lot more planting coming in the next couple weeks, so we'll definitely use this guy right here probably in the next few days. Not going to hurt anything to have it already filled up and have it kind of pre-moistened. So we'll water and feed these with our Agri-Thrive general purpose concoction down there, and our siphon mixer. Fertilize every single time we water at a small dose. And just as a side note, not all these seeds came from MI Gardener, but some of them did. And if you want to order some fall seeds from MI Gardener, you can use the code LazyDogFarm to get a 10% discount. So fall seed starting has officially commenced, and I haven't gotten all my seeds in the mail yet. Still waiting on that one order from High Mowing Seeds. As soon as I get that in the mail, I'll do another video kind of talking about some of the varieties we're going to be planting this fall, new varieties we're trying, why we decided to try those new varieties, and then some of our kind of tried and true favorites. And if we're going to take a look at that worm bed, it looks like we better hurry, because that looks like some rain on the way. Now, just like the 82-degree temperature outside, I know you folks in Texas in the middle of the country don't want to hear about it, but we've been getting rain every single day this week. Not a lot of rain, but a little bit of rain every single day, to where I hadn't had to run any water this week, and I've been enjoying that. Now, I'm not trying to brag on our weather versus anybody else's weather, but we have been spared a little bit this August, which is nice to have, you know, 1 year out of every 5 or 6. It's pretty brutal here usually in August, and if we can get one decent August out of every 5 or 6 years, then I'm happy with it, and I just feel like I got to tell somebody about it. So now let's talk about our worm farm, which we have seated comfortably right there underneath this pecan tree. Pecan tree. This is a pecan tree. Everybody say it with me one time. Pecan. Pecan tree. Pecans come from the pecan tree. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the worms. So here's my little worm farm here, and I was quite resourceful in building this. I didn't have to go buy anything, well, maybe except for a can of big worms. But as far as the hard parts here, I didn't have to go buy anything to make this. I used just what I had laying around the barn. Now, if you want to see exactly how we put this together, you can go to our Instagram account. We have a reel we did a few days ago showing, you know, the whole entire process. But as you can see here, it's pretty simple. So the container I used here is just a hard Rubbermaid container. We actually used this container as a chick brooder last year, and it was just sitting underneath the barn, not being used for anything. So I thought, this would work pretty good for our worm farm. I've seen a lot of people use old bathtubs and stuff around this part of the country, but this is what I had, and this is what I thought would work pretty good. I did want to get it off the ground a little bit. I didn't have any cinder blocks, but I got plenty of bricks, so just stack some bricks up to get it up off the ground a little bit. That way we don't have to bend over too far to dig around in there. And then for the top or the lid, I just used a piece of foam insulation I had laying around. I know it looks a little janky, but it's working so far. Maybe a wood top would work better long term. I don't know if this styrofoam insulation is going to break down on me or not. I do think it helps having that reflective surface there, kind of keep everything a little bit cooler in there where our worms are. And that's another reason why I put it underneath this big pecan tree as opposed to being out in the open. I wanted it in the shade so it would stay relatively nice and cool. I'll say it ain't so. Look who it is. They always manage to find me. Well, hello. Hello. Are we hungry today? Of course you are. So these ducks are pretty smart, I guess, for ducks, but every now and then they'll do something silly. Earlier, they were over here trying to eat one of these ghost peppers off this pepper plant here, and it was funny watching them kind of peck at one, and once one of them got a little bit of taste of one, they quickly realized that this wasn't something they need to be eating. Now, I don't know if we'll be able to find any worms because they kind of stay hunkered down towards the bottom, it seems, but at least I can show you what we got in here. So what I did was I went over to my geo bin, compost bins that we've got. Some of them had a little bit of close to being finished compost in them. Some of them had a lot of, you know, shredded paper, shredded cardboard on top. So what I did was took some of that compost that wasn't quite finished, mixed it up with a bunch of this shredded paper and shredded cardboard, made sure it was nice and moist, and that's what we added here. So what you see right here is what it looks like all the way down to the bottom. You know, not quite finished compost, and then a lot of shredded paper and cardboard. So there's a little bitty worm right there. That's one of the worms that Matthew sent me that I put in here. Those are composting worms. So we put those composting worms in there, and then I also went to the bait store and put some big pond worms in there just to have for fish bait as well. I can't find one of those currently, but there are some in there. Now, when we posted this on our Instagram page, we had a lot of people asking why didn't we drill any holes in the bottom so water could drain. So the reason I didn't put any holes in it is because I'm not really worried at all about it getting too wet and there being standing water in the bottom of that thing. Underneath this tree here, like it is, it shouldn't get a lot of water. I mean, it's going to get some if it rains, but this week where it's been raining every day, it hasn't really gotten a lot of water. The thing I'm worried about is keeping it moist enough. So even though we've had some rain this week, I've been still having to go in there when I water these little raised beds behind me, go in there and just kind of sprinkle some water on top to keep everything nice and moist. So being too wet, I don't think is ever going to be an issue for me down here. I just got to make sure I keep it moist and don't let it dry out too much. So let me know what you think of our worm farm, if you would have done anything different, if you have any tips as far as improving this particular setup here. hopefully once these worms start multiplying and we get a really good solid population in there where they just kind of break down all this stuff really fast, we can start playing around with making our own worm tea or compost tea. I never really did anything like that, but I'd certainly like to try it. And if you're in Georgia like me and are getting some of this cooler, milder weather in August, soak it up, enjoy it while you can, because next year is probably going to be absolutely brutal. If you're in the middle of the country where it's hot and it's really, really dry, y'all just hang in there. It can't stay dry forever, and sooner or later, y'all are going to get some water and kind of get that soil moisture replenished. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to check out our affiliate links below. A lot of great companies that we use in our gardens here at Lazy Dog Farm. Even got some coupon codes for some of those companies so you can take advantage of those discounts. Don't forget to go check out our website, lazydogfarm.com, where we've got hats, shirts, our garden blog, recipes, recommended products, all kind of good stuff over there. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification button, like, and share, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.
Oh, farewell, by the beauty of your life.